Hi guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. I've been in my third trimester for about a week now, so I thought it would be a good time to do a video about my second trimester and kind of recap all the things that happened and different symptoms I had. So I wanted to make this video just to document pregnancy for myself, but also for those of you who are curious about what the second trimester is like. Obviously, my symptoms might be different than other people's or different than what you're experiencing, and that's totally okay. Everyone kind of has a different experience throughout pregnancy, but I'm just going to tell you what has been my experience. So the main thing I would say that I noticed with my second trimester was the increase in energy. So if you guys saw my first trimester recap that I did with my cousin Sierra, you would know that my first trimester was just so tired. I was taking naps all the time, and it was really hard to get things done because of just how tired I was. And so I noticed probably at about 13 to 14 weeks, so like right as I was getting into my second trimester, it was like a night and day difference. It was crazy how much more energy I suddenly had. And then as time kind of went on a little bit, I got even more energy. But that symptom was definitely true for me. And that was really nice because I was able to finally start to kind of be more productive and get things done. It also helped me keep up with my exercises and staying active because that was really important to me to do. So I made sure once I had more energy to really take advantage of that and go to the gym and keep working out so I can stay in the habit. So if you're in your first trimester and you're feeling really just tired and just horrible, don't let that drag you down because there's a very good chance that pretty soon you're gonna start feeling a lot more energy. So just keep that in mind. There is hope. And then kind of going along with the more energy, I also had an increase in my appetite. I didn't have super bad nausea, but I did have a lot of food aversions and not much of an appetite my first trimester. So this increase in appetite has been amazing. I can finally eat a lot of foods that I wasn't able to eat before. Like for example, I can now eat salsa again. I can eat chicken. Still bothers me a little bit, but that's pretty much the only thing. Like other than that, I can pretty much eat anything now. But one thing with the appetite that I actually noticed, which is a little weird, is that I would be like ravenous. So I could eat a full meal and then like an hour or two later be starving again. And so that's kind of been weird to get used to. I have to just try and make sure I'm not eating too much, but also listening to my body. And if I am really hungry, then I try and like eat a snack and kind of refuel myself, because obviously if I'm not hungry, then I really am. But that's been hard to kind of gauge for me of like, okay, how do I know if I'm eating too much or not eating enough? My advice to you guys is just to listen to your body and be reasonable, but that's kind of just what I've been trying to do. But it's a little embarrassing when you eat like a full dinner and then like an hour later you're like, I'm hungry again. So that's been a little weird. And then again, going off of that, I have been extremely thirsty. And I had a hard time with drinking water my first trimester. I tried really hard. Since I got into my second trimester, I've just been so thirsty all the time, which is really good because you're supposed to drink lots of water. And I talked about this in my How I Stayed Active and Healthy During My Pregnancy video, but this has been a lifesaver. I just fill this up and I usually go through 2 to 3 a day. So I drink a lot of water. And then something that was really exciting that happened in my second trimester was feeling the baby move. And this probably has been like the best part of, you know, getting further along in pregnancy, is actually feeling a baby inside you. It's the coolest feeling ever. You have no idea. I think what I've heard is normal is around 18 to 22 weeks is usually when people will start to feel their baby move. And that was how it was for me. I think starting at 18 weeks, I was feeling like little flutters and I wasn't quite sure if that was her moving or not, but it definitely was. And it just got more and more obvious in the next couple of weeks. So I think by 20 weeks, I had definitely been like, okay, yeah, I feel the baby a lot. And it's such a weird feeling. As the baby grows, it gets more, like I said, it gets stronger and like more obvious. At first it was more of like a sweep, like something kind of just like brushed across the inside of my belly. And then as time went on, it became like I could kind of feel like almost something like jabbing me a little bit. What was really cool was Dallin, when he finally felt the baby move. So for like 2 or 3 weeks, I was trying to tell him anytime I'd feel the baby kick, I'd be like, hurry, come here. And every time he'd put his hand on it, the baby would stop kicking. But once I hit 23 weeks, I remember that was when he felt the baby for the first time. And that was the coolest thing, is honestly having him feel the baby made it so much. Dallin sneezing in the other room. So it was so sweet to have him kind of experience it too, because, you know, I'm the one who's experiencing everything, and so I think that kind of helped make it a little bit more real for him. And since then he's felt the baby a lot, and it's been really fun. And then in my second trimester is when we also found out the gender of our baby, which, if you don't know by now, that's a pretty good clue. We're having a girl. We've actually found out at 17 weeks. We did the early one, the early ultrasound, and then we had a gender reveal. So basically we had the ultrasound tech not tell us what we had. She just wrote it down on the ultrasound. And then I gave the envelope to my cousin, and that night we had our gender reveal and we found out. It was actually a huge surprise. Dallin and I both thought, like, we knew we were having a boy. We were so convinced. And I don't know why. Like, I obviously had no valid reason, but I just knew that I was having a boy. In my mind, it made sense, and I honestly didn't care which one I had. People would always ask me that, like, oh, do you want a boy more or a girl more? Or they thought, like, because I thought it was a boy that I wanted a boy. But to be completely honest, we both really didn't actually have a preference, but just because I was so convinced that it was a boy, that was like what I had gotten used to in my mind, and I was thinking about boy decorations and boy names and boy clothes, and that was just such a good memory, finding out that it was a girl. It wasn't that hard for me to get used to, actually. Like, it took a little bit because I had been so convinced that it was a boy, but after like a couple weeks, I was just full girl mode, so excited, thinking of names, and finding out the gender is definitely, I think, probably the biggest highlight of the second trimester. This next one is more of a negative side effect or symptom that I experienced, and this really isn't super common in pregnancy, but basically I have symphysis pubis dysfunction, and basically what that is say you have your two like hip bones or pelvic bones, right? And in here is the pubic joint. So what happened was I had too much relaxin, which is like the hormone that goes through you when you're pregnant. I had too much of that going through my body too soon. And so what happened was this joint right here is supposed to be together, and it actually separated. So I have like basically a permanent gap in between my pubic bone. I have never felt something more painful, which sounds dramatic, and I know labor will probably be more painful than this, but up until this point, this has been the hardest thing about my pregnancy, to be completely honest. And I haven't really talked about it a ton on here. I mentioned it on my Instagram once, but basically what it has affected is my SI joint on my tailbone, and then also my pubic bone itself. It's kind of hard because basically if you walk too much and like do too much activity, then it hurts it, but if you don't do any, so like if you're just not moving for a long time, that also aggravates it really bad. So that's been really hard because you have to have a really good balance, and so I have been trying to stay active, but it would get really inflamed when I would go to my job because I was a server, and I wasn't even working that often. I was working like a couple days a week, and then it ended up getting down to only 1 day a week because that's literally all I could handle with schoolwork, but mostly actually because of how much pain I would be in. As the second trimester went on, it got to a point where after my shifts at work, I literally wouldn't be able to hardly move around my apartment. Like, by the time I got home, my husband would have to help me walk around. It was really crazy. And then night times were probably the worst, and they have been the worst. When I'm laying down for a long time, that also really aggravates it. And then any type of like movement where you're switching weight, that is where it gets really, really painful. So anytime I would flip over from side to side, which if you're pregnant, you can only sleep on your side, and then you know how uncomfortable you start to get, so you want to flip over all the time. So I would literally wake up in like excruciating pain every single time I would have to flip over. And so that has been really rough. But once I stopped working, that actually has helped a ton. I didn't realize how much I was making it worse by like walking so much, especially the type of job I had, because you're on your feet for 4 or 5 hours straight and you're walking super fast. So once I stopped working, it's actually been a lot better. It still is painful at night, but I think also I'm just starting to get used to it. But something else that has helped a ton is I will sleep with a pillow between my legs, and then I also have a pillow that I just kind of have up near me to kind of help support like up here, and then I have one between my legs. And so that has helped a lot. It still doesn't take away everything, but doing that, and then I've been doing a lot of hip and pelvic exercises, and then also icing it has been helping a lot too. So if any of you do end up dealing with SPD or are dealing with it right now, just know that I understand you. It's not fun. Also, oh, I forgot to mention, going to the chiropractor is really helpful too. So I recommend doing that. Even though that's been a really hard struggle for me in this second trimester and in my pregnancy kind of in general, I would be pregnant all over again. So just know that it's worth it, even if you have to deal with different aches and pains and things in pregnancy like that. And then something I've actually noticed just in the last few weeks of my second trimester are dark patches on my skin. This is really common in pregnancy, especially near the end of the second trimester, beginning of third trimester. So I don't know if you guys can tell, it might be like too light, but I actually have a dark ring around my neck, and it's mostly right here and then like right here. And in certain lightings you can tell better, but my husband actually noticed. He thought I like had done like a bad tan or like had some kind of makeup on it or something. It's extra melanin, I think that's what it's called, right? Melanin in your skin, because you naturally are producing more when you're pregnant, and so it's really common to get like random dark patches like on your face, your neck, your legs, arms, things like that. That was kind of a weird shock that I wasn't expecting to get, and I was like, what is this? And then I talked to my doctor and she was like, oh yeah, that's normal, you're good. So that's been something that I've had recently, but I so far have not had any stretch marks, which is super nice. And I know a lot of it is really just genetics. To be honest, I have been doing lotion, but not as much as I should. So I think I'm just one of the lucky ones, I guess. And there still is time I could get stretch marks still, but I am really grateful that so far I don't have any stretch marks. And then kind of just an overall thing about the second trimester as time has gone on is that I've gotten a lot more out of breath because the baby's growing. And then with getting out of breath, I get a lot more tired easily, but not the same kind of tired that I was talking about before, because I do have a lot more energy in general and I'm not needing to take naps all the time, but it's more like a temporary tiredness. Like if I walk up a flight of stairs, I'm so winded and exhausted. It's like kind of hilarious how much that took out of me. So that is something that I noticed is my endurance is not as strong. And so working out and things like that has been a little bit more difficult, especially just as the weeks have gone on. And now I'm in my third trimester barely. And so it's getting to a point where it's like getting to be a little bit difficult to do basic things like walk upstairs. So that's been kind of fun. And then as for cravings, I really haven't had too many specific cravings where I was like, wow, I have to have this like one thing, other than Taco Bell. That's happened. And then like a muffin one time, that was really random. I woke up from my nap and was like, I have to have a muffin right now or I can't go on. So that was weird. But overall, what I've been craving is just sweets. I'm craving chocolate and just anything that's sweet, which for me is really abnormal because I'm normally not a sweets person. Like I will gladly choose something savory or salty over something sweet. So the fact that I'm craving mostly sweet things all the time now has definitely been weird, but Dallin really likes it because he's definitely a sweets person. So we crave a lot of the same things now. And then also I've been craving more fruits, but specifically bananas. I am just like obsessed with bananas, which I love bananas anyways, but especially since being pregnant, I have a banana probably almost every day. I love them. So we buy a lot of bananas around here now. And then the last thing that's happened in my second trimester is that I switched doctors. And I'm actually planning on making a whole video about my birth plan and stuff like that. And that's kind of why I switched doctors for the most part, is because I wanted to do a natural birth and the doctors in the hospital I was going to do were not as accommodating. But if you guys are curious, definitely let me know and I can address that in more detail. But I do plan on making a full video about my birth plan and kind of what I'm deciding to do and what I hope to do. So ask me questions down below that you guys want me to address about my birth plan and anything you are curious about. So yeah, that about wraps up my second trimester. It honestly has gone by so fast. I'm gonna be 29 weeks tomorrow, and that is just so crazy to me. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and don't forget to subscribe and thumbs up this video if you enjoyed it. It really supports my channel. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye.